Hey, what's going on, Archons? Welcome to another episode of Boulevard Blake's YouTube channel. Today I am going to be going into Alliance, and this is going to be a two-part video. First part, I'm actually going to be speaking on the concept of playing Alliance. Here are actually just some Alliance decks I've been building since its announcement, and the truth is I have not been trying to do anything too crazy, and I'll probably get into this a little bit more, but as you can see, I have like varying degrees of scores here, and I'm trying to do various different things. Now, the first part of this video is actually to talk about what I think Alliance is in terms of how it can be approached, what type of alliance do you want to go for, things of that nature. Not really in the specifics of how to build a deck, but more how to approach alliance. Because I think this has very many different ways that it can go for very different reasons. So first off, I think you have to decide how you want to play alliance. And part of deciding how you want to play alliance is going to be identifying the type of player you are, because there is the obvious way where you just take your best stuff and you throw the best things together and see what happens. That's part one, which I think is maybe the worst way to approach alliance, but if you're really scrambling, it could work in a beneficial way. The second way I think you approach alliance is to be very targeted. You have a plan, you have something you want to do and execute, and you work towards achieving that. So that is, I need this component for the game because I'm thinking I'm going to face these things. I want this other component to exist because this is how I'm going to win. And then I want this because this is going to provide a tool chest. That's another way you can always approach it. The other way, and I think this is the most fun way to approach it, is to find decks that you actually really enjoy, but have a missing component. So 2 out of the 3 houses potentially are good, and one just really brings it down. Or on the extreme side is one house is really good, but the other 2 just are booty. They don't do it. They just don't do it for you. So what you can do is then grab that singular house and find out what you like about it and what you think it needs to do great things, and then look for other decks that have a similar situation where they only have one house, and then you bring them together to create a new deck that you actually enjoy playing, which is also utilizing your collection more. And I think that's where the greatest enjoyment is, because you're taking things that you already liked but deemed not really able to cut the mustard and kind of pulling it together that way. And then therefore now you have something that's great. You may see there's a couple director decks here. That's because there was a very specific deck I was trying to make work. Now with that in mind, there is also the way you can go about this, which is you actually just grab random decks and literally find out which one's the best one and start throwing stuff together and playing. And I think there is value in doing that. Now, obviously, the tournament you're playing Alliance will have an effect on this. The reason being is, let's say you are playing in a high-level competitive tournament, which you travel to. You may want to put more thought. If you're playing locally, I honestly think that this is a great approach, especially if you consider yourself a strong player, a strong sealed player. Literally take 3 decks and treat it almost like a sealed exercise. You could even do 2, and not only are you going to get to have practice putting things together, but you're going to discover things coming together in a unique way, kind of like you do with playing sealed. So I think that is a very unique approach. It obviously kind of has a more casual vibe to it when you go about it that way, but I actually think it's going to have a richness in the play experience as you do this exercise over time, and it'll make you more proficient at getting used to playing Sealed Alliance because you're actually just bringing things together. I recommend obviously not choosing stuff that you play all the time, but choose things that you never play. Like literally find a pile of decks that you don't play, and go about it that way. I'm right now, one of my New Year's goals for 2023 was to actually work through Coach's collection and play all the decks I haven't played. As you can see, I have a box out over here because I have been working my way through. I'm in the letter D right now, so still got a ways to go, but I am committed to it. So here we are. And Alliance is honestly going to be a really exciting part of KeyForge. And I know there's people out there who don't feel this way, but I think the ways I've talked about in which you approach playing Alliance will help you find a way that you are going to enjoy. You also, when I said identify the player you are, you have to decide, like, are you the type of player who actually wins all the time, or just have that mentality? Because if you're not a player that literally wins all the time and you play KeyForge because you enjoy the game and winning is a secondary component, then I think you actually open this up a lot more. Play something that you're going to enjoy playing, win or lose. That is a really, really strong outlook to have for something that you are hesitant to go into in the first place. Now, if you're a truly competitive spike type player, then yeah, you can game the system and look for things. One of the greatest things that I think that could have happened to Alliance was when Jason won the tournament at KeyForge Celebration. I think the fact that he had a deck that went against the idea of the OTK plays really helped this format, because people just assume these Martian generosity shenanigans were going to run away with it. And I mean, they were rampant. But what came out on top was something that was well thought out, covering different bases and doing something that understood how it was going to counter and how it was going to also win on its own. And just having that level of thought and that great, you're not just throwing it together. You're not trying to do something that is a gimmick, so to speak, but you actually put something that was composed to be a very well-rounded deck and not just have this OTK. I really think provided this format with a glimpse of what could be and not what you must do, in terms of you need to have this one turn deck. Now, for me personally, I do like the idea of having key cheats in any deck, actually, especially anything that requires a longer day. I think having a way to end the game faster is advantageous. So I just wanted to finish with this first part talking about that aspect, that someone, one, not using the typical OTK style of events and actually just was thoughtful in the composition of a deck. And you even have the mass mutation side of things where, and this is where you actually really deep dive, because you got to look at where all your enhancements are and just build this really enhancement heavy deck that is just going to add to the experience. And that is going to be a huge exploration project, because you got to figure out where they are, then you have to figure out how they play together and the cards themselves, never mind the pips on the cards. Like, there's just a lot of really neat things that can be considered for that. So I just wanted to have this to start with, and then next video I'm actually going to go into some of the ideas that I had and what I went through in making the decks I'm showing here, just so you can get a little bit of a glimpse into my own thought process when I made things. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope that you are thinking about Alliance and not just poo-pooing it because it goes against the quote-unquote essence of what KeyForge is. Because I do think it's still KeyForge, and I do think it has a very rich potential for having a really fun gameplay. And I just think if you're really adverse to it, entering any sort of, we'll call it a Vault Tour style tournament for Alliance would not be for you. But I think there's a lot of other areas in which Alliance can be played and consumed and enjoyed without having to go that extreme route. So let me know your thoughts on this first video, and then next video we'll get into kind of the process of, I guess, these concepts I spoke about in this. So hope everyone enjoyed, and as always, may your ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.